All right. I think the sound is back, folks. I apologize for that. I clicked on the wrong microphone when I set this up. Boy, that light is bright today. Goodness gracious. All right. Thank you so much. Welcome to another morning episode of the Liberty Dad Podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. I'm your host, DL, America's most objective libertarian. If you're tuning in live, especially thank you so much for giving me your time so early. Not only am I the most objective libertarian. I am the most tech less savvy. Is that how you would say it? Like like apparently for somebody who literally automates things and writes code for a living, you might expect that I would be better at using all this technology. But no, I still fumble with all the controls, probably because I'm an old. That's what it is. I'm gonna need to get my little producer in here, my little executive producer. I don't remember which one. We've got my producer, we got my executive. That Liberty lady. We got my son. I don't know. I'm not sure who's which one. Like these titles, I can't keep them straight. But the little guy, I'm gonna need him to come in. Like I'm gonna have to stop sending him to school and just be like, you need to come in and manage daddy's control. You need to handle the remote for daddy. That's what needs to happen. So anyway, let me explain myself a little bit here. Where was I yesterday? So here's what had happened. Not yesterday, but the day before. So today is Thursday, and yesterday would have been Wednesday. So we're talking Tuesday here. Tuesday, my little guy got up like crazy early. And then he came home and he was, you know, kind of grumpy, whatever, because he had gotten up so early and had a full day of school. And so then I was like, "Hey, why don't you take a nap?" So he went and he took a nap, and um, then he slept really long. But then when it was time for bed, he ended up not going to sleep right away. So then he woke up yesterday morning, and he was, just kind of in this mood. So, but let me go back to Tuesday here. So Tuesday when he had come home, I had a work meeting at like 4 p.m. and right probably about 3:30, somewhere around there, 3:35, 3:40, somewhere around there. My work laptop was like chirping at me like, "Hey, you need to do a restart." And I was like, I got a few minutes. Let me just do this and get it out of the way. Because normally what happens is it tells me to restart and then I am like, "Well, I'm not ready to restart." So I just keep delaying it until I can't delay it anymore. So I was like, "All right, let's just get this out of the way and get it over." So I do a restart. I get my son sitting down. Now remember, this is the day that he got up like crazy early. We sit down to do some homework. He has some online assignments he has to do. So he sits down and he's tired and he starts struggling a little bit. And then he just had a meltdown. So, like, I'm in the process of handling this meltdown. I'm like, "Hey, why don't you go and take a nap?" And so then I get him to take a nap. And then I get a message on my phone, my coworker, and he's like, "Hey, you joining this meeting?" Well, this meeting was a meeting that I was supposed to be in. And so this is a problem. I'm gonna turn this light down a little bit. Goodness, if I could do that. Let me try to turn this. This light is just like killing me here. Um, so I was like, uh, why is it being a pain? There we go. Let me see if I can't. Okay, I don't know what's going on here. I'm trying to. That's there. There we go. Can I turn this light down a little bit? Nope, that's not the way. There. There we go. Turn this down. All right. So back to my story. So um my coworker's like, "Hey, you gonna join this meeting?" And it's a meeting I'm leading. I'm supposed to be leading. I'm supposed to be demoing something to like 9 other people. And so my laptop is still shut off because in the process of doing that, my son had a meltdown because he was tired. And so now I'm frantically trying to get my laptop restarted and join this meeting. By the time I do, they're all like, "Yeah, well, this one person wasn't there." So they were like, "You know what? This person's a key person. They aren't here anyway. Let's go ahead and reschedule this." So now I have to explain to my boss, in addition to 5 things that I did last week. Just kidding. That didn't actually happen. We do that on Mondays every Monday anyway. But and it just, so like now I got to explain to my boss why I wasn't at a meeting that I had set up, that I was hosting, that I was demonstrating something that I had produced. And I was extremely embarrassed because I don't like not delivering. I hate it. Makes me so angry. So I'm like, I'm embarrassed now. And my wife's like she's like, it's really not that big of a deal, probably. She's like, probably everybody, it happens to everybody. I'm like, I don't think you understand. I said, just in my mind, the way I'm looking at it, you've got Doge, you've got, like this is national conversation about what you do last week. There's also somewhat of a national conversation about work from home and, like whether or not, people are actually working. And so then I miss a meeting and, at all this time this is happening. And I can't prove that my kid I can't prove any of this. I can't prove that I wasn't just sitting downstairs checking out Netflix, right? Or, outside fishing or whatever. I can't prove that I wasn't doing any of that. Because there's like no video evidence of it. So I was extremely so what does that have to do with yesterday? So we didn't get to the homework on that day. So he still has to have these assignments done, in amount and if you wait too long, then it builds up and he's got to do a whole bunch of them. And so that's no good. So I decided that yesterday we would not do the show so that in the morning I could just focus on, making sure that he got to sleep in a little bit and then get up and then focus on some homework and take care of business that way. Because on this show, the family comes first, period. Now, I wish I had a good way to communicate to everybody across all the channels, but I really don't. But I do, sort of. I was thinking about it yesterday. So I've been talking about locals. So you need to go to locals.libertydad.com. And if you go there, um, sign up. You can sign up for free. And then you can also sign up as a paid member. But if you sign up for free, one, you'll be able to interact with at least some of the free posts. And there, I will start communicating things about the show. Like, hey, I'm not doing a show today because I've got something going on, whatever, right? Or hey, I've got an additional show tonight, or whatever. Anything that's a deviation from the standard. That's what I'll put in there. And I may even try to start putting in there, show topics ahead of time so that you have advance notice and you can be like, oh, he's gonna talk about this today, right? So go there, go to locals.libertydad.com and check that out and sign up, if you will, to be a community member. You can sign up for free. You can also sign up and support the show because that's always a benefit. Okay, enough explaining about what about yesterday and all that. So let's talk about today. Let's talk about what's going on in today's news. So you may have heard that there is a fake running around with Don Jr. And I think it really got people by surprise. So let's take a look and see what this story is all about. So here's ABC News that I'll be reading from. Amid Russia Ukraine negotiations, fake audio circulates of Donald Trump Jr. supporting Russia. What? Fake audio of the president's son has been circulating online. So I'm going to read a little bit. As President Donald Trump seeks an end to the war in Ukraine, what an expert says is fake audio purporting to show Trump's son voicing support for Russia over Ukraine is circulating online, garnering millions of views and a repost from a Democratic Party social media account. So it apparently was so good that even the Democratic Party was fooled. Not that it takes much. In the audio, a voice that sounds like that of Donald Trump Jr. can be heard saying, in part, quote, I can't imagine anyone in their right mind picking Ukraine as an ally when Russia is the other option. Honestly, the U.S. should have been sending weapons to Russia, end quote, says the audio, playing over a video supposedly showing a page promoting Donald Trump Jr.'s podcast. Haney Farid, chief science officer at Get Real Labs and an expert on synthetic media, told ABC News the recording was likely generated by artificial intelligence. Farid said that assignment was based on the results from two Get Real Labs models trained to detect AI generated audio. This audio was posted several times to X, formerly Twitter, where it was shared at least 6,600 times and viewed over 1,800,000 times across several posts, some of which have since been deleted. ABC News also found the audio was shared on the messaging platform Telegram in a post by a pro-Russian account, with over 200,000 followers. It's possible that's where the post originated, as that post is the oldest one ABC News was able to locate. Another X account that posted and then deleted the recording was Fact Post News, the official rapid response account of the Democratic Party. So this isn't something that just like a lot of times people are like, oh, it's those right wingers. They're just spreading misinformation and disinformation. They're just spreading fake news. It's the right wingers. No, it was appeared to be everybody, at least for a short bit. Right. So now you're probably like, but was it really that good of a fake? Well, how about we play it? Right. Because that's what I do here. Right. And hopefully I don't get in trouble for playing it. I don't know. Cause I know that YouTube has some thing about um yeah, I have to I'll have to go back and mark a little box to say like, "Hey, there's fake stuff, fake audio clip in here." Just, because if I don't, I'll get in trouble, but hopefully I don't get in trouble, but we'll see. We'll push the button here. Push the line.
They forget that Ukraine isn't the kind of country you go all in on. This is ridiculous.
I honestly can't imagine anyone in their right mind picking Ukraine as an ally when Russia is the other option. I mean, just think about it. Massive nuclear power loaded with natural resources everyone needs, literally the biggest country on the planet. And there's Ukraine, which has Chernobyl and some radiation-proof dogs.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Biden administration is like, oh yeah, this is definitely the ally we need. Let's dump all our money into them. Honestly, if anything, the U.S. should have been sending weapons to Russia.
Like, okay, so if you hear that, like that sounds pretty like that sounds convincing. It's even got like a slight echo, right? Like, I mean, it sounds like he might be in a room or something with where the acoustics aren't so great. I could see where a lot of people would easily be fooled by that. And let's be honest, there is this narrative that the Trumps have been, on the side of Russia for a long time now. And there's been a lot of stories that turned out to be fake, right? That have come from the left. So it's not like it's out of left field per se. I mean, it is in context because it's like, this would be like, this is a silver bullet if it were true, right? Like if it was a real recording, it would be a silver bullet and be like, yep, that proves it. They've been in bed with Russia this whole time. But as it turns out, it's fake. And it's possible that the Russians made it fake. Talk about trusting the Russians, right? So, like, think about that. The narrative is that, hey, like they're in bed with the Russians, and the Russians are making it look like he's in bed. And then the left is, people on the left are promoting this stuff. So who's being fooled there? Who's the one sending all this fake information out? Right? Left wingers? Just saying. But the problem here, it's a huge problem. And I saw a clip from Tim Cast. I'm going to play that clip. He focuses on, I didn't watch the whole episode, but I saw this clip and I was like, oh, you're making a really good point. And then I wanted to add to that point. So let's go ahead and play that clip of Tim Cast here. And he makes a very interesting point. And then we're going to elaborate just a little bit more.
They're going to make an AI video of Donald Trump giving a press conference. They're going to take a video of Trump at a press conference where he's going to say, there were very fine people on both sides, and I am not talking about the neo-Nazis or white nationalists because they should be condemned totally. They're going to take that video. They're going to change, they should be condemned totally too, and some of them. So Trump will go, because, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis or white nationalists because some of them should be condemned totally.
Okay. So you see the distinction that Tim is making. He's saying they're going to make a subtle change rather than, because his argument is not that they're going to make something where Trump is doing something that's really, really out of character. Like, hey, look, the example that he uses is, hey, look, here's Trump kicking a puppy. Like, they're not really going to do that like that. I mean, you might see some of that, but that's not really what's going to hit hard. What he's saying is what's going to hit hard are subtle changes. They're going to say, they're going to modify, a real video of him speaking about something real and then just change a few of the words so that the context is entirely different.
We're going to alter the tiniest of words.
Yes.
And what's going to happen then is when the video goes viral, no one will know which one was the real one. The fact checkers won't be able to tell you. They'll say, well, Trump did give a press conference. He was there. and this video's gone viral across the board, you might get some outlets being like, we were there, we saw, he didn't say that. But then all it's going to take is some Democrat to come out and be like, BS, I was there, lying. This is what he actually said. And the reason why that's so nefarious, what Democrats will say is, you'll go to them and go, he said that neo-Nazis should be condemned totally, which is literally what he said. And they'll go, no, he said some of them because he was defending the ones that were there. The changing of the context. So with this fake video that went viral, Don Jr. never said it. But it's not audio of Don Jr. talking about cheating on his wife or girlfriend or beating his children or kicking dogs. It's an off-the-cuff comment to deride Ukraine where he facetiously says, we should have just been giving Russia the weapons.
Okay. So it sounds pretty insidious already. So let me give you an example from back in my evangelical days of how devious even a simple one single word change can be. So when I was an evangelical, one of the things that we would note is, and I don't recall if this is actually true or not, but this is what we went with. This is what we said back in like the 90s or whatever. So I was an evangelical and we would dispute other other views of scripture. And I believe it was who's the Watchtower folk? The Jehovah Witnesses. So the Jehovah Witnesses would say there was like a passage in scripture where they made a change, and it would say, instead of Jesus Christ is the Son of God, they would just change it to Jesus Christ is a Son of God. Or I don't know if it was a passage or they just would say that. But I want you to think about that sentence just for a second. Jesus Christ is a Son of God, the Son of God. Think about the difference there. It's a massive difference, because a son means there might be more than one, right? Like you're one of several, one of two, one of more than one, right? You're one of them, but the son means the only one. Huge difference. Now, I want you to think about that in the terms of Christianity. Like, what's the impact of that? Well, that could be a huge impact on the entire belief system. The entire belief system right there, from a single word, an article, a or the. You can change the entire thing. And think about it. Laws like that have been written and been challenged in court cases have been won and lost on the basis of punctuation. Punctuation. Now, it gets worse in my mind, this whole AI thing. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. We're going to get to that, but I want to go through a couple of more things. So let me shift gears a little bit. And it seems like I'm shifting gears wildly here, but we're going to shift to this. As I was kind of like researching and seeing like, okay, what are we going to talk about today? There was some rumblings about an account that had that was associated as a government account going around shilling a meme coin. I was like, wait, what? That doesn't make any sense. And it was supposedly like alleged to have been part of the Doge network, if you will, or the Doge team. And so people were like, well, wait a minute, Doge, like hasn't quite been officially set up or is not finished, being officially set up. So why is it that there's this account going around shilling a meme coin that has this this gray mark, this gray check mark, which indicates it's an official government account? So let me pull this up real quick. All right. So this may not be the best source, but I found it, and this works. It tells us what we need to know. So this is somebody named Lydia Lawrenson. She said, "I'm absolutely transfixed by this site lately. I can't stop. God help me." So we get into it, and here's what she said. So here's this account, Sam Bankman-Fried, and you can see that it has the gray check mark to the right of it, and then it says SBF_Doge. So it really looks like it's like off the cuff. It looks like, hey, this is an official account, because you don't get a gray check mark unless you're an official account. It says, "I would like to sincerely thank Mr. Donald Trump for his pardon, which has allowed me to move forward. Thanks to this opportunity, I'm pleased to announce that I'm now working for the Doge government." Wow. Wait a minute. He is? He got a pardon? All seems like it might happen, right? Like that's what Donald Trump does as a president. Like he gives pardons. I mean, like not like I mean, that's not his sole role, but I mean, like, that's what a president does. They give pardons. And we've seen a lot of pardons being given out. Some might cheer on, some you might question, but whatever the case. So it's like, well, wait a minute, this is a legitimate account here. All right. And so then we look here, and you might not be able to see it, but you can see it at the bottom of the screen here. It says verified account. And then it goes on to say this account is verified because it is a government or multilateral organization account, verified since February of 2025. So you're like, wait, what? Why? Sam Bankman Fried? So it looks legit, right? So then we go, the SBF Doge account now, whatever, scammers will go to no end to extract money from this space. So what happened was that this account was, it launches a meme coin that hits 10 million. And then the rug pulls crashing to 100K, whatever MC means, I don't know. But ultimately, what we have going on here is that we have an account, a legitimate looking account, shilling a meme coin. This is not the first time that something like this has happened. If you are on social media and you know who Austin Peterson is, he was recently hacked and he spent like a week trying to get his account back. And during that week, hackers had his account and were shilling a meme coin. And then he created a second account and he was like, look, this is not me. Do not buy that coin. His wife was on there and she was blasting all over. She was like, do not buy the coin. Tag and tag and tag Elon Musk and everybody that you can, Twitter support, X support, and let's get this account back. It has been hacked and they are offering a meme coin, which is not, and we just had this whole meme coin thing with the Hawk Tuah girl, which actually was a real thing, right? Like she is a real person. She legitimately set up a meme coin. People legitimately bought it and the rug was pulled out from under. So there is like this meme coin thing going around. And it started with a legitimate account. And now I don't know the details for Hawk to a girl. Like she probably had no idea what was going on. I don't know if she was hacked, if she was bamboozled, if she was just, like, hey, she was in on it. I don't know any of those details, but I do know that it actually did happen. And then now we're starting to see accounts getting hacked. And then these accounts are now offering meme coins, which people are purchasing because meme coins are a real thing. You can actually buy into them, but then you get scammed. And so there is a lot of scamming going on, but it's that's not the end of the story, right? So like now we have two things in our bucket today. We have Donald Trump Jr., being an AI generated audio supporting Russia, talking about how we should have given weapons to Russia, which fits the narrative from people on the left. Even if they don't actually believe that particular story, it fits the narrative that many of them have been pushing for years. Then we have now legitimate accounts, starting with just regular everyday podcast bros, Austin Peterson, and getting hacked. Then we've got government accounts getting hacked. So it makes it look even more legit, right? Like, hey, Trump pardoned this guy. Now he's offering a meme coin. He's working for Doge. A lot of people are going to get scammed. Now, the argument would be like, hey, maybe you need to get scammed. That's another conversation we can have. But I think the reality is we need to first be aware of what's going on because there are 320 something, about 320 million people in the United States. Not all of them are going to be on the up and up. Just the way it is. Like there are things that I don't know, right? Everybody's ignorant about something. And so in a sense, and I don't mean to sound like this kind of collective, but a good society will help look out for each other. And rather than just be like, yeah, too bad for you, sucks, huh? For us that like can figure these things out relatively quickly, I think there's like I don't want to say a duty or an obligation because there's no obligation. I'm not obligated to tell anybody anything. However, if I want a better society, that's the kind of thing that I'll do. I will go out and I will put out this information like, yo, whoa, stop, don't do that. Don't respond to that email from the Nigerian prince who wants to put money into your bank account. I know it sounds really good, But remember the golden rule, well, not the golden rule, but the saying, if it's too good to be true, it probably is, right? Like, don't forget it. And so I don't think there's an obligation, but again, if you want a good society, if you want a society that's better, we have to look out for each other, because sometime there will be something that maybe catches me, and hopefully somebody else will be aware of it before I am, and then they will put out the information, be like, yo, don't do this. And then I'll learn from that, and I'll go, oh, okay, I'm glad you pointed this out, right? Because that's how scams work. Scams work because they get somebody, and everybody is susceptible to a scam. Maybe not the same ones, but we're all susceptible to something, or some mistruth, right? Some misinformation. Like in this case, in the case of Donald Jr., it's very reasonable to say that a lot of people would be fooled by it, because a lot of people already believed that there was some relationship, some positive relationship that has been going on for years between the Trump family and Russia, specifically Putin. So we need to kind of watch out for each other. But the story doesn't end there. We're gonna take some some comments here, and then we'll go to intermission, and then we'll come back. And I've got another story, because I think the situation is kind of dire. So let's take some comments here. All right, so I'll get my music going. All right, there's my cool music. All right, let's see here. Yeah, sorry about the sound earlier, guys. That was my mistake. I had some things going on, and I clicked on the wrong button. All right. Mr. Joe says, DL trolling me, saying he's the most objective libertarian. Objectively, that's me. It could be. It could be. You know, we're moving away from who's a real libertarian to who's the most objective libertarian. And eventually that will be ruined too. And if you don't know what that means, like there's always this argument like, oh, you're not a real libertarian. It's kind of like you're not a real man. You're not a real, like it permeates every group. Every group gets it. You're not a real Christian. You're not a real man. You're not a real woman. You're not a real libertarian. You're not a real Republican. Every group loves to do that. So, and I'm going to try to ruin it. Yeah, another word. Like, you're not the most objective. You're not an objective libertarian. So that's me. I'm trying to use it for my benefit now, but it'll get ruined eventually. Let's see. Um, I'm not sure what this is in reference to, but it is true that Liberty Lady points out it is like pulling teeth just to get him to use a calendar. Yes. And look, in my defense, I have a work calendar. I have my personal calendar. I have my Liberty Dad podcast calendar. And I can't sync up my work calendar with my other calendars. And then my wife has a calendar, and she lives by a calendar. And she's got like 7 of them because she does different things and they have different purposes. And so then I'm trying to keep up with all these calendars, and I'm like, this is just too much work. It's too much work for me. I'm when this podcast blows up and I'm making millions of dollars, billions, maybe trillion. Okay, that's going. But if this podcast goes somewhere, I promise you one thing that I'm gonna do is like I'm gonna see if I can't find a way to hire somebody to manage a calendar for me. Like you are the executive calendar person or something. I don't know. We're gonna that's my goal. Like, people are like, DL, what would you like to accomplish in life? I would like my podcast to get so big and have, such success that I can hire someone just to manage the friggin' calendar. That's success for me. All right, let's see what else. Yes, locals, $5 a month, libertydad.locals.com. So go there. Again, you can sign up for free, and that will help keep you up to date. I'm going to start posting there a lot more frequently. I haven't really been posting there a lot because, I'm still working on getting there, but it's going to happen. All right, there's I need to get that sound like on a revolving. Anyway, what else we got? All right, that Liberty Lady says you don't get in trouble for AI clips on Rumble. YouTube is just a bunch of bees. Probably. That's probably true. Let's see. Hey, here's a nice comment. Keith Garrett, Liberty Dad is a real American hero. Oh, yeah. I'm an American hero. I'm like Rambo. I'm like the podcast Rambo. Yeah, we're going to go with that. Let's see. Keith also says one of the main reasons for a society is mutual protection, I would argue. Yeah. But again, as a libertarian, I'm not saying it's an obligation, right? Like, like we can look and be like, oh, for real, you knew about that and you didn't tell somebody? What a jerk. That's it. Right? Like that's as far as we go. We're not going to punish you legally, right? I mean, perhaps maybe if like you watch somebody get murdered, but like if you just knew that some information was fake, if it was, you know, right regarding just simple information, then yeah, no, it should just be a social thing, like a norm. That's it. Last comment here. You're not a libertarian until a libertarian tells you that you're not a libertarian. Did you get that? Hope you did. All right, folks, let's go to intermission here, and then we'll be right back, and we'll talk about this other story here, and we will see what is going on. We'll tie it all together. So see you in just a second. Hey, Liberty fam, do me a favor. If you enjoy the show, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button to my channel. And for the really serious folks out there, I want you to hit that bell so that you never miss an episode. By the way, if you want to support the show, head over to libertydad.locals.com and sign up. For $5, you can be part of this show. There, I'll engage supporters of the show. We'll discuss topics that you want me to talk about, response videos that you would like to see, or anything related to the show. And I'll even have a monthly subscribers only episode. By the way, I'm always looking for dads to join me for Dad Talk. That's my series where I invite everyday dads on to talk about what's important to them in the context of being a dad. No argument, no debate, and dads choose the topic. It's my way of raising dad voices. If you're a dad or you know a dad who has something to say, let's get connected. Episodes air live on Friday mornings or Friday evenings, whichever works best for dads. All right, let's get back to the show. Hey, we're back. All right, let's talk about this next item. Gun control. You're like, wait, what? Gun control? Yep, gun control, AI, and meme coins. I'm going to tie them all together. All of it. So this comes out of Colorado. You might remember not yesterday, but the day before on Tuesday, I made a mention. I kind of took a swipe at the Colorado Libertarian Party because they were worried about something that was unrelated to, to their state. They were worried about what was the topic? The topic was, whether or not Vivek should run for governor. And they were like, oh, maybe Vivek should sign our liberty pledge. And I was like, maybe you guys should focus on gun control in your state. And they are, so let me be fair. They are posting about it. They're raising awareness. And I assume that they're probably doing things, going out and speaking at their legislative bodies against the gun control. So I'm not going to say that they're not doing anything. I'm just like, look, I was just taking a swipe because what I do, that's what I do, right? Like we take a swipe at each other every now and then we go have a beer, hopefully. So here's that headline. Here's what we've got. Let's see here for Colorado News. Colorado Senate committee advances bill to ban guns that accept detachable magazines. Okay. Law would not ban possession. That's how it starts, right? A bill introduced at the Colorado legislature to ban the sale of semi-automatic firearms that can take detachable magazines made it through its first committee hearing just before midnight Tuesday following hours of contentious witness testimony. Senate Bill 25-3 passed through the Senate State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee on a 3-2 vote. The committee's 2 Republicans voted against the bill. It is the third time in as many years that Democratic lawmakers have attempted to pass a substantial gun violence prevention measure that would ban the sale and manufacture of certain types of firearms. Bills in 2023 and 2024 would have banned so-called assault weapons entirely, and last year's version passed the House of Representatives for the first time in state history before dying in Senate committee. But this year's bill is distinct in that it has more widespread Democratic support at the outset. It does not ban firearms based on make, model, or non-magazine features, and it comes from a longtime advocate for stricter gun laws, Senator Tom Sullivan. The Centennial Democrat joined the legislature following the murder of his son at the 2012 movie theater shooting in Aurora and has sponsored successful bills on red flag law, a waiting period for gun purchases, and a crackdown on untraceable ghost guns. I will never be the firearms expert that many of you claim to be, and I don't ever want to be, Sullivan said. Okay, so let's just start there. If you can't claim to be a gun expert, or at least equal to what other people claim they are, and many of these people that are claiming it are, in fact, experts at the level they say they are. If you can't even come close to that, You should not be submitting and passing legislation. You should not be governing people out of ignorance. That's what Senator Sullivan is doing here. He's admitting, he's like, I'm ignorant, but I'm going to try to govern you anyway. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to pass a law that puts you, the citizens, who might be more knowledgeable about these things, under rule of law. That's immoral. Period. By the way, just in case it wasn't clear, I don't support any gun control. Okay? Like, now if you say like, hey, you committed a crime and we're taking your guns after you've committed a crime, and then, we go through the due process, fine. Very similar to like if you steal a TV and they take the TV, right, as evidence, fine. Right? If they take some of your belongings, while you're in jail after you went through due process, fine. However, once your time is served, your time is served. And with very few exceptions, do I think that we should continue withholding any of your freedoms. There are a few where the recidivism rate is ridiculously high, like, people that abuse children, stuff like that. Okay. Like if you abuse a child and then they say, okay, you can never be a teacher again, I'm okay with that. Right. There are some instances where I think, okay, this is proper. And there may be some instances where somebody has committed, a very heinous gun crime. And we say, all right, you don't get to have a firearm anymore. Right. Like if you go and you shoot up a whole crowd of people, like I'm probably going to be okay with that. If you just defended yourself in a situation that's, kind of murky and like who started it, who was at fault, those kind of things. No, not the same. Okay. But otherwise, I don't support gun control, which typically is before you've committed a crime, before you've even been accused of a crime. Right. Like that's like, so no, I oppose it 100%. That includes fully automatic firearms. You should be able to have one if you want. That's the way it goes, right? Your right to you own yourself, and to own yourself means you get to choose whatever weapon that you want to defend yourself, be it a rock or a fully automatic machine gun, right? This is where I am. Okay, so let's continue on. So let's see here. But I can say that I have heard it all on this matter and that I believe Senate Bill 25-003 is a pathway forward. So he's heard it all. He know in some weird universe, Sullivan here, he's not an expert, but he's heard it all. So I don't know how he reconciles the two, because if you've heard it all and you understand it well enough, then you should probably be at the point where you can say that you're an expert. But if you can't say you're an expert, then maybe you haven't heard it all, or maybe you've heard it all and you just ignored the parts that you don't like, which is probably the case. He probably just ignores the things that he doesn't like. Anyway, Sullivan said he is not in favor of an assault bans weapon. I'm sure he's not, right? Like, it's easy to say that because you don't want to rile up the gun crowd too much. But I'm willing to bet that if it was in his favor, if it was in favor of banning an assault weapons ban, willing to bet he'd go for it. Put money on it. So that's this story. So let's go to, are you familiar with Colin Noir? He is a gun rights activist. He's also a lawyer. He has a great channel. I encourage you to check him out. The link to the video that I'm about to show you is in the show notes. So I want you to listen to the video because he kind of goes through this bill. So this bill started out one way, but it's moved. It's different now. It's not the same. So let's hear what he had to say about it, because that's what bills do. They start out one way, they get modified and they change. So somebody like me might talk about it and say, yeah, this bill is bad because of all these reasons. And then they may change all the reasons. And so then now my, the bill where it stands now is in one place, which is different than what I talked about. So people might be like, well, what he's talking about? He's crazy. Like, that's not what the bill even says. So let's check it out. Where are we here?
All right, let's walk through this mess, shall we? Initially, this was supposed to be a straight-up ban on AR-15s and other semi-autos, but some lawmakers realized that that was a little too blatant. So they got creative. Instead of banning them outright, they just made it so difficult to buy one that most people won't even bother. Now, before you even think about buying a gun, you have to apply for an eligibility card, get fingerprinted like you just booked in the county jail, pass a background check, which, by the way, has no time limit for approval, take a 4 to 12 hour training course, which includes, wait for it, victim awareness and empathy training, pass a 90% test because apparently we're getting graded on our rights now, and then pay a fee that the state can raise whenever they feel like it. By the time you actually get through all of that, you're out hundreds of dollars. You've wasted who knows how many hours, and you've probably aged 5 years. And after all of that, you still might not get approved. And just when you think that's the worst of it, Colorado's like, oh, one more thing. We're keeping a registry of every single person who goes through this. Because what could possibly go wrong with a government list of all the gun owners?
Wow, that's where the bill is now. That's right. That's what it's doing now in Colorado, where it's heavy Democrat, right? Like if you look at their legislature, they have a Democratic governor, they have a Democratic state legislature. So like dominant, it's majority. And so there's a good chance that this bill might actually pass. Now it's hard to say. If you look into it, you find out that 2 of the Democrats who initially supported it are no longer supporting it because they're like, yeah, like one of them outright said, he's like, I'll lose my seat if I support this, which is funny because I'm like, well, wait a minute. What about the rest of them? Aren't they going to lose their seat if they support this? This bill, like as it stands right now, it should basically be a political death sentence. Like anybody that supports this, they should be rushing to, they should be reaching out to every PR team that they can find and be like, yo, I don't support this. Help me fix it. I want to make sure that's how serious it should be, but it's not. And you might say like, DL, what does this have to do with AI and fakes and all this? One more video really quickly, because that's the Democrats. And you might say, well, DL, we got Trump and Trump's got all these great people in office. And, he wouldn't do a thing like that. He wouldn't support anything. Do you see where I'm going now? All right, one more video. I'm going to play this video. Now, this video is actually old, but it's relevant. Okay? It's 2018. It's from a press conference that Pam Bondi, the new AG for Trump, did with Trump. So I want you to hear what she has to say, because this is enlightening.
It's called the Baker Act, but it's our Civil Commitment Act, and it's weak. And it's about 1,000 pages long, and I've had my Solicitor General on it for 3 days now, working on it. We're rewriting it along with Governor Scott, you're going to meet with him. He's going to give you a ton of good information. We've been rewriting it, and we are going to bring in something called the Gun Violence Restraining Order. So if someone is civilly committed, typically you can hold them for up to 72 hours, but people are getting out within 24 hours, the majority of them. So what we want to do is let law enforcement come in and take the guns.
Good.
They're a danger to themselves.
Which you can't
or
do
others.
right now.
Well, because without being adjudicated. So because they're a danger to themselves.
You want them to take the guns and
when they are
not go through 6 months of legal trials and everything
exactly
else,
but we also have to give the mentally ill the due process in which they deserve, President. So what we're doing is they're going to be able to take the guns when they're taken into custody or into the hospital, and then when they're released within 24 hours or 72 hours later, typically it's 24 hours, but law enforcement will have 72 hours to determine whether they should give those guns back, or they can go to a judge and say, Your Honor, please keep these guns. We feel this person is still a danger to himself or others.
Okay. So we got Pam Bondi. She's in favor of red flag laws. We have red flag laws here in Republican-dominated, Republican-led Florida. Okay? And she supports them. And to my knowledge, Donald Trump supports them as well. So the Republicans aren't any better on this issue. Now, it's not an issue of guns per se, but I am tying this all in together to make a point. So here's the point that I am making. Number one, when it comes to people like Don Jr., I'm not too worried about AI fakes because number one, he has plenty of resources at his disposal. Like he could pay a company to dig into this, like and say, "Hey, show that I really didn't say this." He could show he has the funds to say like, "I never met with this person," right? Like here's when the video was supposedly taken or the audio was supposedly taken, and here I am on the other side of the world, blah blah blah. Like he has all the resources necessary. Not that he should have to use them, but he has them. He's also a very public figure. So there's going to be, on one hand, there's going to be a lot more scrutiny. On another hand, there's going to be things that go viral about him or anybody that's got that level of publicity. They're just gonna like. There's gonna be a lot of things that go viral about them that aren't going to be true, and that's going to be taken into consideration, right? They also have resources where they could, reach out. Like his dad's the president. They could find resources, government resources to look and say, no, this is not true. We needed to use government resources to determine whether or not this was true. Because if it was true, it could be a national security issue, right? So even if he didn't want to use his own resources, he has access to resources to use to find. So I'm not too worried about that. Again, not that it makes it acceptable. Lying about people, making fraudulent videos without making it clear that it's fake, like saying, "Hey, this is a satire video. I'm doing it just for fun." Like that's fine. I have no issue. But if you present something as if it were real when it's entirely fabricated or modified to make somebody look bad or even make them look good, right? That's wrong. And you should face some sort of consequence for that. But I'm not as worried about the Don Juniors of the world. What I'm worried about, the DLs of the world, the Joes of the world, the Keith Garretts of the world, that Liberty Ladies of the world, anybody that's a regular, everyday, average person that may or may not have access to these resources, or somebody that just happens to grow their account very big. They're a social media influencer like the Austin Petersons. So imagine that Austin Peterson, instead of getting his account hacked and somebody shilling a meme coin, imagine somebody hacked it, and then they started subtly posting things that sounded like a threat, and say, "Well, I can't believe my lawmakers passed this." For instance, since I'm using Austin Peterson as an example, he just recently went. He lives in Missouri. He just really recently went to his state legislature and testified against a tax against something related to taxes. So imagine now, instead of somebody hacking him and saying, "Hey, here, buy this meme coin," imagine that they passed that legislation that he just spoke against, and imagine that somebody now hacks his account, gets online, and they start posting threats. Well, imagine now we tie in these red flag laws, and these red flag laws, or whatever kind of bans that Democrats or Republicans put together, and you have like a red flag law, and they say, "Hey, look, this guy's threatening people. We better go get him. The government's got to do something. We can't let people threaten people." And he seemed like a nice guy. Now he's not, right? That's the concern, and it's a concern because somebody could take a video of me. Maybe they don't hack my account, but maybe they take a video of me talking about against a bill, right, in Colorado, and then they modify it so that I say something that I didn't really say, right? And so they create bad publicity for me. So it could be simple as bad publicity. It could go all the way to, hey, government has sees this and initially thinks that I've crossed a line and they need to intervene for the safety of myself or other people. This could happen. This is the concern. The concern is for us everyday average folks. So two things. We need to be mindful of the news that we see. We need to become more mindful than we ever were before. It's one thing when there's a viral email that goes around and, people think they're going to get some Nigerian prince dropping a ton of money into their bank account, which is absurd, but people apparently fell for it. Right? It's one thing if that happens because it's a person initiating the action and saying like, "Okay, I'm going to try to get this money." that I think is legit. That's one thing. And it's a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. But that's one thing. It's an entirely different thing when you're going about your way. You're just posting stuff on social media. You're posting some memes, whatever. Maybe you're trying to grow a podcast, whatever the case may be. And somebody hacks your account or somebody modifies a video of you or they create fake audio of you saying or doing something that you didn't actually do. And what are the implications? Well, they can be all over the place. It could create legal issues with the government. Tim, in his video, in the clip that I played a few minutes ago, he said it's not a clip of Don Jr. Talking about cheating on his wife or something like that. But what if it was? And what if it wasn't Don Jr.? What if it was? What if it was a clip of some regular person? Like we've all seen it in the movie, right? Where somebody entraps one person and they send maybe fake photos to a spouse showing the person doing something with, they got like a secret lover or something. And maybe they do, maybe they don't, right? But the fact being that like the spouse now. So imagine if a spouse gets something, like imagine my wife were to get some audio of me talking seductively and steamy with some woman. And then she's like, "Can you explain this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's fake." Right. But now there's an issue that we have to deal with. So that's like the simple version. Right. And then somebody could reach out and be like, "Hey, I can solve your problems, but you need to give me some money." Right. Like that's a way to scam people. Like this could go in so many different directions. So it's extremely important that what we do is that we start learning to pause and take information with a bit of a grain of salt for at least 24 hours. In fact, the spicier, the more juicy the news, the more pause we should take. But then it could get worse because government never lets a crisis go to waste. And the people that want to impose strict like gun laws and other laws of any kind, right? Like we're having the trans debate right now with children. Should you like, and there are issues where people have supposedly lost their kids because they were on the quote unquote wrong side of supporting their child being trans. They've lost custody. So imagine, like this could go all over. Imagine somebody is online, they're relatively vocal against, trans activists and some of the things that are going on. But they're also involved in a custody dispute. They're going through a divorce and somebody creates a fake AI. It could be some outsider, some third party that just wants to stir up trouble. It could be their own spouse. What if they have a tech savvy spouse that creates it and then sends it to a judge and says, "Look, can you believe what my husband said? He's totally not fit to be," or my wife, it could be either or, right? Could you believe what my spouse has just said about our child? You should totally give me the custody. This could go in so many different directions. It's extremely dangerous and it is extremely important that we learn to slow the heck down. The 24-hour news cycle has got to go. And I don't mean that like from a government perspective. What I mean that is as a society, if we're looking out for each other, one of the things that we need to start doing is learning to slow down and say, you know what, maybe we don't need all this information at our fingertips the moment it happens. Maybe the moment an event happens, I don't need every single detail at my fingertips, which incentivizes somebody else to give me as much information as they can, even if some of it is untrue. We need to move away from that because I think we're getting into a place where it could be dangerous. And it'll start with I mean, it's already started. We've seen the videos of President Biden saying crazy things, right? Somebody takes a video of him in the Oval Office giving a press conference and he's saying one thing and then they modify it so that he's saying something else and something really offensive, but it's funny, it's satirical. Like, and that's cool, that's fine. Right? Like I don't have an issue with that. I don't have an issue if somebody does that with me as long as, we understand like, hey, this is fake. It's not real. It's just meant to be funny. We're lampooning somebody. And it's easier when it's somebody super famous. Because somebody like Don Jr., Donald Trump, President Biden, there's a long public history that most people are aware of. So if it's real, the crazier it is, which means it's more funny, the crazier it is, the more likely we'll immediately recognize like that don't even sound right. That doesn't even sound like something he'd say. But as Tim pointed out, what happens when there's a subtle change? and somebody now wants to further a narrative that may not even be true in the first place, or they want to create a narrative. What happens when it comes to regular everyday people? What happens when it starts infringing on our rights because a spouse or a friend or whomever has access to these tools and they start generating things because they're angry? And this has happened. Like, people have falsified information about other people forever. This is so I'm not raising some sort of concern that couldn't possibly be true. It's already happened. The difference is, back in the day, you had to lie about it, and you had to try to create a good lie that that accounted for all the other factors, right? You like if somebody was in, like, if my wife is in Texas and I'm all like, "Man, she pushed my child down the stairs yesterday." Well, like, it's gonna be difficult for me to prove that if she could be like, "Yeah, but I was in Texas. Like, here's my plane flight. Here's the flight. Here's my credit card receipt from the restaurant that I ate at. Like, I wasn't even in the state. What is he talking about?" But now with AI being able to generate fake video and fake audio, now I can just generate something and be like, "Yeah, look, they totally said that." When, where, I don't really have to prove that so much as, I can just say, like, "Look, they said that." And I can send it to a local judge, and I can cause disruption to friends, family, possibly, if it's good enough, I could possibly do it with somebody who's got who's very public. In this particular case, it kind of stood out, and but remember, the news story was that even the Democratic Party, one of their accounts, their rapid response teams, they thought it was true. Why? Because there was an existing narrative, and they were like, "Wow, bam, we got you." And so then it went viral, right? So this is a very big problem. How do we deal with it? Do we deal with it with government? No, not necessarily. What do I mean by that? Well, I don't think that we should pass laws. However, I want to point out, Elon Musk, who is side by side with Trump, Trump won the election, has long been concerned about AI. And so, what might he do or suggest to Trump or legislators to kind of help prevent this kind of thing from happening? And think about it. This happened to Trump's son. So that's how this kind of thing starts when you start going down the path of legislation. It starts with lampooning whoever is in power. And then that person in power, well, because they're in power, and especially if they're doing good things that people are appreciative of. Did I say that right? But if they're doing good things that people can enjoy and respect, then when they come out and say, "Yeah, maybe we should pass this law," well, it's a little bit easier to get support for that, isn't it? That's the concern here. So what I'm telling you is kind of prescient, but it's not specific, because I don't know where this is going to go. But I could see about 14 different ways where it could go sideways for our civil liberties very quickly. And we can look at existing legislation, what people want to do, and what they have done, what legislation is already accomplished, and we can just say, add AI to the mix. Now you've got a potential real problem, right? We can start pretending that, or we could start faking people saying things that they didn't say, and cause them to have to go through the legal system, or cause them to, have conflict. And I mean, think about it this way: somebody could just be angry, and maybe they don't want to get me in trouble with the law, but maybe they want to create some dissent within my own household that causes me to have to deal with, my personal life, and then set aside podcast life, right? Like, there's just so many different ways that this could go. And I could just sit here probably for the next couple of hours and just think of scenarios and be like, "What about this? What about that? What about this?" So what is the answer? Well, the answer is, number one, if people are found doing something fraudulent, they should be punished. That I will support. Like, hey, if you put out something and you didn't clearly state or make it obvious that it was satire or just mocking somebody, but if you intended it, if there is evidence that you intended this to be seen as legitimate, then you should be punished, right? We should open up for civil liability. If you create something fake out of me and it just gets some laughs, okay, fine. But if it causes me financial harm or personal harm in some way or legal harm, you should be punished. Right? Like, this is where we are now. So we have to be careful. We have to look out for each other. And so if you're able to identify that something is not real, get it out there, right? Get it out there to the best of your ability. If you're not and you see information and it looks real, maybe take a pause and be like, whoa, wait a minute. For instance, I'll give you another example and then we'll get to comments and we'll close the show. There was a video that went viral the other day. This was not AI generated. This was just clipped. So it showed Elon Musk. I can't remember. I think he was at CPAC maybe, and he was walking down from the stage and he had his little son with him. And his son was kind of lagging behind. And so the clip that was going around showed that Elon walked down some stairs and then just basically walked off while the little guy was still walking down the stairs. And people were spreading it around. They were like, man, what a terrible parent he is. And my immediate thought was, I was like, I wonder if there's a longer clip because it was only like 10 seconds. I was like, I wonder if there's a longer clip. So I checked the comments. Sure enough, there's a clip that's like 20 seconds long. And what does it show? It actually shows the same clip, longer, a little bit more at the beginning and a little bit more at the end. And at the beginning, as he's walking toward the stairs, he stops. Elon does. He stops, turns around because his son is starting to walk off into a different direction. He stops and says, no, come this way, come this way. And then his son starts following him. Then he goes down the stairs. The kid goes down the stairs. Elon's walking faster because like he's an adult and the kid's like a child. So their legs are like, his legs are like 3 times longer than his kids. And he's walking like an adult does. So he walks away. But then he turns around and as his son's coming down and he walks back and he motions his son, come on, come on, come on. And then they walk off together. So he did. So the actual scene was a scene that like every parent everywhere has ever experienced. Everywhere. We've all experienced walking, our kid not keeping up, turning around, going back. Come on, little Johnny. Let's go this way. Right? They get distracted because they see something shiny, whatever. Yeah. This is what I'm talking about. Like, and that was just edited. That's the old days. The old days are going away. Edited clips are going to go away. Or it'll be worse, right? Like Tim said, where it'll be a combination of editing and AI. Like we're now having fun with AI, where sometimes it's creating it brand new, sometimes it's modifying a little bit, but it's doing it in such a way where it's very obvious that it's fake. But we're going to get to a point where that selective editing that makes it look like one thing, that's going to be merged with AI. And you, the viewer, are going to have a very, very tough time knowing what is real. We're getting there, folks. So watch out. All right, let's check out the comments. And then we'll see what we got here. Let's see. Let's see here. Larry Sharp just said last night, what happens in New York will happen in your state eventually. Red state will just take longer. That's true. Like I look at a lot of the blue states and I see what they're passing and I'm like, yeah, it's just a matter of time. It's coming. Right? Because all it takes is some threat to a Republican and then bam, they support it. Let's see here. Keith Garrett points out, what part of shall not be infringed is unclear. Well, for a lot of people, the whole thing, unfortunately. Let's see. Marco and Rick wrote a red flag law. That is true. Marco Rubio, who is now in Trump's cabinet. So just point that out. Let's see here. What else? Lawyers are scammy, says Joe. Yeah, they can be. There's a few good ones. How's that? Some of them are good people, I suppose. Isn't that how Trump said it? Let's see here. Let's see. El Tigre in the house. The house. He says, I voted for Trump because I was more afraid of China's 350% shipbuilding advantage, being behind on hypersonics in offense and defense, and being behind on drone tech and manufacturing. That's fair. I mean, I didn't support Trump. You know what? In fact, speaking of Trump and why people might not realize this, we just talked about how Colorado wants to institute a database. Do you realize that I was actually amused by Trump initially when he was running in 2016 because he was going after the media and he would like sit there and he'd point at them. Like they'd be in the back with their cameras rolling, he'd be like, you, CNN, and you, and MSNBC, and you're all terrible people. You should be fired, right? Like he would just say it right to their faces. And I was kind of amused by that. I was like, yeah, that's kind of funny. But then he came out at one point and he was talking about having a database for Muslims. Man, I remember that, but he did. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I was like, burp, hit the brakes. And I was like, nope, we're done. We're done. No more musing. Now, the fact that you would even suggest it, unacceptable to me, right? Like this is your punishment for doing that, because we've seen what government does when they have access to large information about their citizens, right? We put them in internment camps, and that's not acceptable to me. So that's how it all began, actually. Let's see what else. Conversations going on in here. But welcome, new folks. So if you're a Trump supporter, I am not, but I am, like I said, I'm the most objective libertarian in the United States, probably in the whole universe, but I'm the most objective libertarian. So I will give him a fair shake. I will be heavily critical, cynical, but I will give him a fair shake. And I've got some plans to go over the promises that he made when he came to the Libertarian Party convention last year. So look forward to that. Let's see. I think that's it for the comments today. Thank you guys for joining me. We are going to head out now. Hopefully you guys remember to watch out for your fellow man. Don't do it as an obligation. There is no social contract of any kind that says you should do it. It's just a good thing to do so that we can have a better society. But otherwise, I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this episode informative and inspiring. Be sure to catch me Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. for an informed discussion on politics and culture. Make sure that you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, or if you prefer my Rumble channel, you can go to youtube.libertydad.com, or you can go to rumble.libertydad.com. While you are there, let me know how I'm doing by leaving me a comment. You can also become part of the community by heading over to libertydad.locals.com. Remember, if you're a champion of liberty, your business is people and your product is liberty. I want you to have a great week. Catch you next time. But for now, I'm out.